Hey guys, welcome back or welcome to the channel. Today we're going to rank the top 10 curse techniques of JJK. And what I'm basing my rankings off is strength, versatility, and power. That is strength, but... And also keep in mind that I'm separating the curse technique from the curse technique user. It'll make sense in a second, but I did my best to isolate if it's the curse technique that's the best or is it the user's abilities to enhance his technique. Side note is spoiler warnings, so be aware. And other than that, let's get into it. First off, I have a couple of honorable mentions that didn't quite meet the criteria for a top 10. First, Boogie Woogie. Yes, it is very versatile, effective, but it doesn't have the power necessary to deal a lot of damage or deal any damage. It's really it's a support technique, but like I said earlier, if you separate the technique from Todo, like Todo himself is a monster who can do heavy damage, so it didn't matter that Boogie Woogie couldn't do damage, but Boogie Woogie on its own is just a support. My second one, Limitless. I know this is controversial since it's one of the strongest guys in the versus ability, but that's because he's the strongest guy in the verse. Limitless on its own is quite ineffective. It's been stated that without the 6 eyes, it's pretty much useless. It drains too much curse energy, even for a Yuta who was stated to have one of the most deepest curse energy pools in the series, and even he said it was kind of useless. And the third one on the honorable mention, Blackbird. It is versatile, can help you with scouting, high damage output when you use the crows to their maximum potential, but after that you add the crows. It's a curse technique that relies on other things to be around you, and if you line it up against other techniques I'm gonna have on this list, Blackbird wouldn't be that effective unless you somehow had a couple of crows around you. The fourth and last one on the honorable mention list is Curse Manipulation. Similar to Blackbird, and the reason I don't have Blackbird up here is you rely on something else being around you and not your curse technique. Your curse technique is useless if you don't have any curses around you. It is strong when you do have curses around you, but I think, and also when you eat the curse, it tastes horrible and it might drive you to insanity, as it did Gato. All right, now that honorable mentions are out the way, number 10, Virtual Mass. Virtual Mass's ability used by Yuki, in which she can add virtual mass to yourself, kind of self-explanatory. It can be used to overpower some abilities, add strength to yourself for close combat purposes and defense purposes. You can tank more abilities, but the reason it's not higher is because it has a lack of versatility due to it having no long range capabilities or mobility applications. It never was stated that you can take mass off yourself to speed yourself up. You can add mass to only yourself. It'd be more effective if you could, like, anything you touch, add mass. That might help too, but if it's stated she can only add mass to herself and her curse spirit, again, you separate the user from the technique, you're not going to have that curse spirit. So that goes your long range capability. So it is strong, versatile, and the fact that it can be used for offense and defense, but it doesn't help you counterattack some of those abilities higher up on the list that have long range capabilities and whatnot. 9 on the list, Blood Manipulation. Now, I don't think necessarily blood manipulation is that much better than virtual mass, but it's way more versatile, as in fact that blood manipulation can also boost your physical abilities, as shown when Chozo hardened the blood in his body to make him hit harder, increase his defense. He also has supernovas that can be used for long range as well as piercing blood, also a long range ability. So you have long range, short range, and you can harden your blood for defensive purposes. It does have one weakness that stops it from being any higher on the list, which is, like, again, you gotta separate the user from the technique. So Chozo, who has infinite blood, can use the technique as willy-nilly, but a regular person like me, you, or somebody in the verse like a Nobara had it, they'll run out of blood. You only have a certain amount of blood if you're not prepped beforehand. Even then, you only have a limited supply, so you have like a time limit or duration to last with other techniques that are on this list. 8, anti-gravity. Now, anti-gravity isn't as versatile as blood manipulation, and it's pretty similar to virtual mass, although it has one caveat that would put it above the other two, which is it has the ability to counteract all long range abilities, which was really a setback for virtual mass, holding it back from being higher on the list. Or anti-gravity can be used similar to virtual mass, where it can buff your close combat abilities, and it can counteract any other long range abilities thrown at its way. So while virtual mass can buff its defense by adding more mass to itself, you will still end up taking damage, while in anti-gravity's case, you can deal with long range abilities without taking any damage, which could preserve your body, use your technique longer, more durability, all that hoo-ha. And the reason it's not higher on the list, it's just not up to snuff with the other abilities on this list. So number 7 is the 10 Shadows. And I think the thing that puts it above all the other techniques I just previously discussed is it's just versatile as hell. You need somebody to scout? Oh, I can summon a giant electrical bird. To track somebody down? Oh, I can summon 2 demonic looking dogs that are gonna sniff you out. I need somebody to heal me. I got a deer that can heal me with its antlers. Anything you can ask of it, it has. And it has one of the deepest bags in JJK. But the downfall keeping it above the other things is it is versatile, but it doesn't have the damage output that would propel it over these next abilities that are, quite frankly, kind of broken in this verse, I should say. But right now, it's squarely at number 7. Number 6 on the list, Ice Formation. And basically what this is, you are now Iceman. From summoning giant pillars of icicles to send at your opponents, freezing entire lands, and being able to drop snowflakes that can freeze your opponents, immobilizing them and going for the easy kill. This isn't as quite versatile as the 10 Shadows, but more than makes up for it in just its power output, and it's leaning into one direction, which is attack and immobilize. Yeah, I don't see how a 10 Shadows user can beat this technique unless it summons Malgaraga, and that's just a suicide attempt. And if you gotta commit suicide to beat the technique, it's, did you really win? You know what I mean? But Ice Formation, the only reason it's not higher on the list is just that simply the other abilities higher, just kind of more broken, could do more things. I mean, being Iceman is cool, but when you start to learn the other things on this list, it was like, Number 4, Disaster Plant. Yes, I am using Cursed Spirits techniques, so you probably already have a good idea what number 1 is, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Disaster Plant, now one might ask why you put Disaster Plants over Ice Formation. Ice Formation could easily just freeze the plants. Yeah, it could do that, but how you gonna freeze the plants when you don't even want to fight me? Or you break out of that, oh, I'm just going to teleport behind you, stick some plants on you that prevents you from using your curse energy. Oh, how you going to use your curse technique without using curse energy? And it can tech make you that easily. I'm not saying that's how a fight between a disaster plant user and an Ice Formation user would go. I'm just saying it's a very easy key to victory for a disaster plant. Or Ice Formation, you just gotta hope you can catch them. You hope you can freeze them. Also, I am assuming, I forgot to say this earlier, I am assuming everybody has relative curse energy, and these curse techniques haven't been stated to take much curse energy or don't consume as much curse energy, so I've been operating under that assumption for all these techniques. But the resonator is 5, I should say. It's the other techniques are just simply better. Number 4, Disaster Flames. Now, why Disaster Flames is higher than Disaster Plants? Fire just hard counters nature. I'm sorry, but even anything disaster plants can do, disaster flames can partly just burn it away. It also does have explosives that they can use. Summon volcanoes that can shoot off like torrents away from your body. It's not as versatile as due to the fact that it can help you with mobility. I know Jogo was faster, but again, we separating the technique from the user. Disaster Flames just has more firepower, pun intended. I hate to be a broken record. The only reason it's not higher because these other techniques are just quite frankly disgusting. Number 3, this is where the list gets undebatable. Like all the other techniques you could argue is one spot higher, it should be better than this, a little bit better than that, but nah, once you get to 3 and above, the order is pretty much set. Number 3, shrine. Literally one of the most, if not the best, offensive curse technique in the entirety of the series. Being able to outflame the flame technique, sending invisible slashes from afar, and if he touches you, it's pretty much GG, due to the fact that he can adjust his curse technique to how durable you are and slice right through you. So unless you're broken or are able to use reverse curse technique effectively and have an abundance of curse energy, you're pretty much screwed. Not one tapping, but he's really running a fade with almost every top tier in the verse only using this technique. And I know you separate the technique from the user, but being able to send invisible strikes, high firepower, and arrows, and adjust your technique to your opponent's durability to cut him with ease, I would say this technique is solidified in the top 3 even without Sukuna using it. But like I alluded to earlier, the other 2 abilities above it are just broken. You can't really do too much about it, and the only reason Shrine was able to beat one of these abilities is because Sukuna was attached to it. In a vacuum, these other 2 techniques are pretty much flawless. Pretty much. Number 2, and I know this one might be a lot of your favorite YouTubers, JJK tubers, number 1, but to me, the supreme opinion, this is quite easily solidified at the 2 spot, which is comedian. Comedian, for those non-manga readers that watch the video to this point, comedian is reality warping, reality manipulation, whatever you want to call it. He basically, whatever he ever finds funny, he can summon it to real life. Like he was able to summon a truck that was capable of one tapping a special grade curse spirit, and I'm fine with using his feats tied to the technique, because prior to getting the technique, he was just a regular person. So all his feats is really tied to his technique. A couple weeks with training with his technique, but in a couple weeks of training with your technique, you were able to one tap a special grade curse spirit. Sound like a pretty broken curse technique to me. And also, he's able to negate any damage you do to him. If you are able to even do any damage to him, like I said before, that truck one tap the special grade, and I'm here to tell you right now, brother, you are a normal person. You're not a special grade. You cannot survive a carpet bombing. So you're pretty much screwed if you hit with that, or you don't have the number 1 technique, which some of you have probably already surmised or deduced. Idle Transfiguration. Need I say more? You can really transform your body, give yourself wings, you can fly around, so it covers mobility. You can harden your skin, that covers defense and attacking. If you touch the person, and if you are able to touch a person, it is GG's. I know Nanami was able to survive it, but Nanami was a seasoned grade 1 sorcerer who instinctively used curse technique to protect his soul, and that which he only was able to do once. And you might say, if comedian can negate damage, some of all this stuff, how would Idle Transfiguration beat that? I'm just saying, even with comedian use, Kenjaku was able to damage Tabaka once or twice when negate the damage. And I'm just saying, if Idle Transfiguration touches you once, it's up. It's a one tap. You can't negate damage if you're dead. And that's pretty much my reason for putting it over comedian. It doesn't have any drawbacks to the technique or anything that's holding the technique back. In comedian's case, if your confidence wavers a little bit, or you just not feeling up to it one day, or your imagination, if you can't think of anything to imagine, you're pretty much screwed, or your technique will fail to work. Transfiguration's case, it's pretty much 24/7. It's gonna work the same regardless how you're feeling. If your confidence is high, confidence is low, that type of thing. And that gives the edge to Idle Transformation, in my opinion. But other than that, that's the list, guys. Leave a comment on what your list is. If you leave a like if you like the list, you like the video, and have a blessed one.